Davis, and I would ask Harriet Castro, who will be next.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Davis.
Mr. Chairman and other board members, I'm here tonight and to speak on behalf of the YMCA. I am the pastor of St. Luke Baptist Church down in Ruth Glen, better known as the Frog Level area. And we have some members who are members of the YMCA, but they travel to Ashland. I live in the Ladysmith area, so I travel to Massaponax to go to the YMCA. I am so excited that there is a possibility of having a YMCA here in Caroline. And so I'm here tonight to ask the board to please consider that to its fullest. With the health concerns in our country today, the YMCA would greatly benefit us, not only the youth, but the senior members as well. There were many programs developed there at the YMCA as I would go to the Massaponax area. Matter of fact, when I was going to the Massaponax, I'd run into some of the Caroline folk there. In particular, I hope you don't mind me calling his name, Mr. Ashcraft. We would exercise from time to time. My daughter, who is now an adult, at 18 months learned how to swim at the YMCA. So there are several benefits for our youth that can be gained from having the YMCA here in Caroline County. It's just a shame that we have to drive to other areas to gain a service that we can have here in Caroline County. It would also be a great benefit for our community. I just noticed how the people at the Massaponax area had a certain kinship. They were closer together. They talked about the different areas. They talked about different things going on at different schools. And so we asked the board tonight to please consider having this YMCA built here in the county. When I think about the county as a whole, I live in Caroline County. My folks come out of Frog Level, Ruth Glen. I moved to Ladysmith, but I live in Caroline County. It's all one county. And so I'm asking the board tonight to please consider the idea of having this YMCA built in this county. It would greatly benefit our youth. I was talking to Pastor Leverett, and when you read the papers and see all of the youth that's getting into things, trouble, the YMCA would provide programs, activities that would help benefit our children. Again, I want to thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to the YMCA in Caroline. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Next speaker is Harriet Castro. After her will be Les Stanley.
Good evening, Ms. Castro.
Good evening. I'm Harriet Castro. I live in Lake Caroline and Madison District. I have a few comments about the $4.5 million for the YMCA.
Be a little.
When I first read of the list of proposed bond issues, I was very surprised. $4.5 million is a lot of money to donate to a company for services, which I wonder if our Parks and Recreation Department could provide if funded. I question if the YMCA cannot come up with the building funds, who is going to furnish, maintain, and update this building? Is the 4.5 just the beginning of funds needed to keep the YMCA here? I understand there are membership fees. A YMCA is what I could classify as a want. It's not a need, such as health and safety, the emergency rescue squads and the fire department, the sheriff's office, and water and sewage, or education, including schools, libraries, and museums. With the reduced school funding, layoffs in the county offices, I think we first should cover our basics. Invite the YMCA to start up after-school programs, which I think they run in the schools. They can rent the gyms in the schools or community centers or Bowling Green Town Hall and start up some of their exercise programs so we can see if there is a community support for them. Then maybe the economy will have improved and we will know if the community has decided a need for the YMCA. All of the county needs have started with small fundraisers. Emergency rescue squad and fire departments still have fundraisers, and the Library for Dawn has raised quite a bit over the past 2 years. These fundraisers show community support for the project. Let the YMCA come and prove to us that the community needs them, and they are not a duplication of services we already have without required membership, just residency. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Castro.
Next speaker is Les Stanley, to be followed by Suzanne Sumner.
My name is Les Stanley. I live in the greater Sparta metro area, and I vote in the Bowling Green district. And I've given a packet that I hope that you have. I have the current conditions and laid out per capita income, taxable property, and I based all of that on the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, the debt summary dated 31 March 2010, the 2010-2011 adopted budget, and the 2010-2011 adopted budget utility loan from general fund and revenue anticipation note, and also the CIP. It's interesting, I came up with $95 million as what we owe, and of course I heard a different figure, and I've heard from different ones, so I guess it's up in the air. So I guess you have the right figure, so I do apologize for that. But members of the Board of Supervisors of Caroline County, Mr. Ashcraft, County Administrator, I come before you this evening to comment on the Board's intention to borrow money for several proposed projects. As the Board considers borrowing heavily to pay for these projects, I would like the Board to consider the materials attached to my comment. If you have time to look at those later, that would be great. First of all, I was here several months back when a developer, Mr. Frank Seeley, proposed Belmont West. He proffered to build a firehouse for $1 million if his development was approved. What is the status of this proffer? I do not understand why the county is proposing to spend $1 million to build a firehouse in Carmel Church when the proffer should cover it. How often are proffers made by developers to get property rezoned, and how often are these proffers not collected? My understanding that this is a recurring problem. I understand the Ladysmith Village, it was supposed to be a park. I don't believe one has been built at this time. With the current economy, we are faced with the possibility of property reassessments dropping by 15 to 30%. I have attached an analysis showing various percentages and their effect on our current debt picture. This does not include any additional debt service. If we borrow the money that is currently proposed, what additional revenue stream is available to pay for it? It can only be met by raising current taxes substantially. What person, normal person, who is facing a 15 to 30% drop in revenue, their pay, is going to go out and borrow even more money with no appreciable way of paying it back? County employees and teachers have not had a cost of living raise or merit raise in 3 years. Some employees have had their salaries reduced 1 to 2%. If all of this money for projects is borrowed, what will be left to give hardworking, dedicated employees a pay increase, a fair pay increase? I would caution the Board not to take its employees for granted. They deserve better. This past year, the state helped balance its budget on the back of retirees and future retirees by reducing the amount counties had to pay to VRS. This money is going to have to be repaid over time, and I would not count on being able to reduce the VRS payments this year. Public Utilities has a $5.5 million loan from your reserve fund that they've not paid back. Has there been any plan put forward to have the reserve fund paid for by utilities? Utilities in most localities make money. I guarantee you that Hanover is not losing money by supplying water and sewer to the State Fair, which is located in Caroline. I hope that you will get your fiscal house in order. We need to rebuild our reserve fund. We need to get utilities in a place where they are paying their own way and not depending on the general fund so much. We need to focus on ensuring our county employees and teachers are paid so surrounding counties will not snatch them away. We need to fund critical projects, not nice to have. Thank you. I hope I didn't go over.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley.
Next speaker is Suzanne Sumner, to be followed by Carolyn Davis.
My name is Suzanne Sumner, and I'm a full professor of mathematics at the University of Mary Washington. I also serve as their Faculty Senate President. I serve as treasurer for the Friends of Caroline Library, and I'm a resident of File. I'd like to speak in favor of funding the Dawn Library project, and even though we face tough economic times, we should take advantage of locking into the current low interest rates and construction costs. I have brought with me numerous research studies and reports demonstrating the importance of libraries to struggling communities such as Dawn. One library administration and management report views libraries from a research and development cost-benefit analysis and states, public libraries will enrich, entertain, and educate the residents to become better persons, to obtain better paying jobs, and to be able to pay local taxes and be productive citizens. The study concludes that communities that fully fund their libraries will also see returns such as lower crime, higher quality of life, better public safety, higher educational levels, increased volunteering, and a reputation as a destination or relocation alternative. Another Virginia government study uses a comparison of a library as the People's University and states, "The People's University is now the people's source for job searching access to government information only available online, and email and internet resources, as well as traditional library activities. Virginia's public universities have always sought to educate the Commonwealth's citizens, and our library system as the People's University has always been our partner. Please fund the Dawn Library project. As the cost-benefit analysis shows, the costs we incur now will pay for themselves in future benefits. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Sumner.
Next speaker is Carolyn Davis, to be followed by Glenn Laverette.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Carolyn Davis, and I'm from Port Royal District. I'm a retired educator in this county, and I know the importance of libraries especially. I come tonight to support the Dawn Library. As a member of the library board, I represent Port Royal, and I'm very proud of what has been done at this point, and the fact that I was able to be at the September 30th, 08 groundbreaking at Dawn, and to see how the county came together there. It was a very touching moment to see that groundbreaking in 08. And now it's 10, and we're still working on this project. I've been very proud, too, to hear what's been done since 08 with the groundbreaking and the fundraising that's been done by the community, Reedy Church in particular, and other groups that have supported them. I know for a fact that they have raised over $100,000 at this point. And I think that the community is certainly supporting this library and working hard. My hope tonight is that with all the many things you have to do, that you will keep the Dawn Library at the top of your list, and that this library will be built. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis. Reverend Laverette.
Reverend Laverette. The next speaker, and Patricia Richardson will follow him.
My name is Reverend Glenn Leverett. I'm the pastor of Jericho Baptist Church. I live in Ladysmith Village in the Madison District. I represent the over 700 members of the Jericho Baptist Church. I come to speak tonight in support of the YMCA in the Ladysmith area. For over 20 years I've been in this county. I've been listening to our officials talk about the needs of our youth. I read the newspapers. I see our kids being incarcerated. I've seen we've had to build an alternative school for children who are not fitted in the public school environment. I think it's time for the county to stop paying lip service to supporting young people and start making an investment in them. And I find it difficult to understand why we would be in opposition to anything that has the word Christian in it, a young men's Christian association. And too often we've been trying to change the conduct of children without changing the character of children. Until we can change their character, we cannot change their conduct. A YMCA will give us an opportunity to change who they are. That way we'll be able to affect the things that they do. I support the YMCA.
Thank you, Reverend Leverett.
Next speaker is Patricia Richardson, to be followed by Keith Brady.
Good evening, Mr. President, Board. I've lived in Caroline, Reedy District since I moved here. Moved out of the big old city of Richmond right into Caroline. Ever since I've been here, I haven't been able to drink the water because I live in Caroline Pines. I think that's a long time not to be able to use water where you live. You gentlemen have seen what it looks like. You don't want to taste it. I'm asking you again, on the shoulders of sounding like a broken record, and I hope I do sound like a broken record. I need water. Caroline Pine needs water. We are a good, financially sound community. We're not asking you to pay for this water for us. We're asking you to do in the service of the water, and we'll eventually pay for it ourselves with time. We're not begging. We're asking for a hand up. We'd like for you to consider it, and consider it very hard if it was your home where you turn this tap on and use the water to wash your hands, and that's all, because that's all it's good for. I'd like to thank you for listening to me. Please consider that we need water. We have to have it. We cannot live in that community without it. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson.
Next speaker is Keith Brady, to be followed by Tammy Redding.
Good evening, Mr. Brady.
Good evening. Keith Brady. I live in Ruther Glen. I'm resident of Caroline Pines, the Reedy Church voting district. Speaking to you to say I do support bringing public water to Caroline Pines. We are in dire need of county water. As you all probably already know and have seen pictures and seen some of the water. One thing that I do want to emphasize to the board, I do understand the concern with wanting to, or having to borrow additional funds to support this project, but one thing I would like to emphasize is that this is one of the few times probably that the county will actually get a return on that investment, especially over the long term. And actually, over the long term, will actually probably be in the black. Actually won't be in the red. This is one of the, I think, few things that the county, can, look as being a positive. It's a win-win situation. I think the county will do better in the long term. Obviously, we will do well having, county water. So when it does come to vote, please take that in mind, that this won't actually be in the red. I do understand that concern wholeheartedly. But thank you for your time. That's all I'll say.
Thank you, Mr. Brady.
Next speaker is Tammy Redding, to be followed by Joanne Scarpa. I'll pronounce it properly.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I come before you, I live in Woodford and I'm a member of the Bowling Green District. I come before you tonight. I know there are many worthy projects out there, and I am not against any of the projects before you as a concept or something desirable to have in the county. But I hope that you will all really think about borrowing money, and especially borrowing money right now. I'm not over the top about the amount of debt you have. I mean, I think it's approaching a limit where you shouldn't exceed it, but I'm not, over the top about it. But I really think that, I do pay attention to the economy, as many people do, and I read, and the fiscal outlook is very uncertain. It's very unclear. Most economists at this point are calling for the rest of the year to be worse than what it has been. for the first half of the year, and it hasn't been great the first half of the year. Housing prices are predicted to fall, starting in the fall, which is, you know, now. I read one report today that maybe they already have started to fall in August. So if housing prices continue to fall, the economy really doesn't pick up, unemployment stays at 9% or better throughout 2011, I really think this is not the time. It's not the time to borrow money unless you absolutely have to for an emergency. And I don't see hardly any of these things as an emergency. And I just think as a taxpayer, as a voting citizen, as a member of the school board, I could talk about lots of projects I think the schools need, but that's not why I'm here tonight. I'm here tonight because I don't think this is the time to borrow money. I heard people talk about lower interest rates. Chances are, if things go the way people are saying they might, you're going to have low interest rates for the next 3 to 4 years. It's really not going to be the issue. Wait a year. Wait a year. Let's see what happens with the economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Redding.
Next speaker is Joanne Scarpa, to be followed by Barbara DeBerry Kesner.
Scarpa.
Hi, my name is Joanne Scarpa, and I live in Caroline Pines in the Reedy District. And I have some pictures, if y'all would like to see, of my water and stains to appliances that are only a year old. This water is nothing I would drink. I purchased my own water, and I really don't even want to bathe in it, but I have no choice. This community really needs water. We are willing to pay for it. I don't think it would be a long-term project. I do think it would be in the black, and we need it. And I really would like for y'all to look at those pictures and see if that would be something that y'all would like to have to cook with, bathe in. And if your answers are no, then I think you should know how you should vote. We are not asking for, you know, fun things or things that are not needed. This is a necessity. And if the property ever wants to go up, that community will never get property values up without water. I also want to mention that I work at McKesson, and I know this project is supposed to be coming here, and I would certainly love to be able to tell people to come move to Caroline County and to move into my community that I like. But I can't right now because I don't want them to even know that I have water that smells like rotten eggs and looks like mud. This is very important. I appreciate your time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Barbara DeBerry Kesner, to be followed by Maynard Penny.
Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Barbara DeBerry Kessner. I live in Caroline Pines in Reedy Church, and I'm here to speak on behalf of getting water in the Caroline Pines community. This is a desperate need that we have. You've heard from folks tonight. I know you've talked with folks previously, and appreciate you coming to our board meetings and the community for those who have. Our water is undrinkable. I personally cannot drink the water there without becoming ill. All of our cooking and eating needs we purchase. Walmart has a field day every time I come in and buy 10 gallons of water each week because we just can't drink our water. The only thing we use is it for bathing and cleaning clothes, washing laundry. This is a need in times of hardship with the financial situation. I understand those needs and those hardships, but this truly is a need of the community. It affects property value. It affects people's health. It affects children's health. And so I deeply ask you to support this project when it comes in front of you for a vote. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Next speaker is Maynard Penny, to be followed by John Bowers.
Good evening, Mr. Penny.
Thank you all. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Ashcraft, the two ladies, didn't mean to make you last. Don't have a whole lot to say. I've been here before. I'm concerned, like so many, about the debt of Caroline County. With all the explanations that we have of how you're going to cover that debt, nobody has really taken into account that I could hear the change in assessment that we're going to run into. I sell real estate. When I look at what the county assessment, the present assessment is, as of the last year, 2 or 3, and look at what it's bringing, there's a big difference. We're going to take a hit. I don't know how much, what percentage, but that hit is going to affect the money you have to spend. These projects that you have, the Spotify, Caroline Pines, YMCA, Dawn Library, sewer plant, where are the projects? I'm not opposed to any of them. But can we afford them now? Where are we going to get the money? How long can we keep on borrowing? Cheap interest doesn't mean a thing. It's got to be paid back with less income if the assessments change. Our cash reserves, I'm told we don't have any. The YMCA is desirable. Caroline Pines, they've got a problem. I know that. But how are we going to pay for it? I need you to think about that very seriously. The Dawn Library, the Spotify department, Sparta, the chief said, we don't need this right now. We can wait. The library is very desirable. I use the library a lot. But right now, we need to take care of the most urgent and emergency problems that we have. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Penny.
Next speaker is John Bowers, to be followed by Kelly West.
Good evening, Mr. Bowers.
Good evening, sir. Gentlemen, my name is John Bowers. I've spoken to you before. I'm the Vice President of the Caroline Pines Property Owners Association. You've heard from some of our property owners. You're going to hear from some more. You've seen pictures. You're going to see some of the water actually taken from one of our taps, and I think it will shock you. The citizens are concerned about debt. They're concerned about how it's going to get paid back. We've got 381 homes. Everyone is going to need, everyone is be mandated to hook up to your water. Everyone's going to pay the $2,800 connection fee. That's how this is going to get paid for. This is a positive project for the county. Not a big positive. You're not going to be able to fund other projects from it, but it's going to be a self-sustaining project, and that's virtually guaranteed because these people, I and everybody else that lives there, needs water. Everyone's going to pay the connection fee. Hopefully we'll have a 5-year payout, a 5-year program to pay it. We need it. This is a need, not a want. This isn't one of those shiny things that we want to do to brag about. This is a need that your citizens have, and your citizens are willing to pay for it. Sometimes people say we should do this project ourselves. First of all, nobody's going to loan our little property owners association $2 million. And second of all, a small freestanding water project doesn't work very well. But hooking onto a big program like the Caroline utility system makes sense. It makes your system stronger. We're part of a large, strong system. It works for the county. It works for us who are residents of the county. It makes sense economically. It makes sense because the citizens need this. Sometimes you have to spend money to make money. This is a good project. It's a positive cash flow for the county, and it's something that the citizens, your 381 families in Caroline Pines, really need. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bowers.
Next speaker is Kelly West, to be followed by Bev Mazza.
Good evening.
Hi, my name's Kelly West. I'm from Ruther Glen, Moores Mill Road. I've been in Caroline County 15 or 20 years now. I moved here because it's the country. Didn't move here for high taxes. Came here to be free. I listened earlier as you talked to the gentleman from the school, and you talked about your budget. If I handled my personal finances the way that this was explained, well, we don't know where this money is, we don't know where that money is, and we got a bid for this, but we didn't have enough money. That's not how we do business. My husband estimates for a living. If he put out an estimate like that, he'd be fired, frankly. John Maynard Keynes once said, we're all dead men anyway. If you run our county like that, we're going to end up like the federal government, like California and other states and counties. In the Midwest, my husband's been working in Indiana. They have counties there they can't afford to pay their policemen. I don't want to live in a county like that. I don't believe in big government. I'm a very limited government person. But I came here because I thought that this was a place that had old-fashioned values. Pay your debts. Owe no man anything. The gentleman, Mr. Thomas, started this with a prayer. Well, the Bible says, owe no man anything. Somebody said 4% is cheap interest. Well, if we get hyperinflation and people pay $50 for a loaf of bread, which is very likely the way things are looking, if they keep printing money, and maybe people here don't understand that, but I do, and if you print money like it's paper, the amount it's going to cost for people just to live is going to be astronomical. And there are a lot of poor people in this county. And I'm asking you not to get into any more debt. We need to pay off our debt and be a good county and be representative, you know, for our people so that people can survive. YMCAs, I mean, what is wrong with everybody and their materialism today? We need iPhones and cell phones and this gadget and that gadget and a YMCA. We live in the country. Get outside, get some fresh air, run, go for walks, go to the school playground. But if you continue this, you're not only enslaving, I don't want to be a debt slave. You're going to enslave my children and the other people's children. Let us be free.
Thank you, Mrs. West.
Next speaker is Bev Mazza, to be followed by Jack Pleasure.
Good evening, Chairman and Board. I'm Bev Mazza from Caroline Pines, the Reedy Church District, and there's really nothing I can add to what my friends and neighbors have said about our Caroline Pines water other than we need it. We need it badly. When I think about my neighbor down the street making baby formula, it's not a pleasant experience, and bathing that baby in that water, it's not a pleasant experience or something that I'd like to think about. And so I would just ask you that when it comes up for the vote, that you go ahead and you vote that we get our water. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mazza.
Next speaker is Jack Pleasure, to be followed by Frank G.
Good evening, Mr. Pleasure.
Good evening. Mr. Chairman, Supervisors, Jack Pleasure, Bowling Green District. I'll be brief. Mr. Ashcroft presented the debt situation. I know we have a debt situation. I want to see how we're going to get out of it. I'd like to have him come back and present a way to get out of the debt. Put us back on even footing. That's it. Insofar as Caroline Pines, I feel for the people who have water that isn't very good. But Culligan will be glad to come down and install a water treatment situation. Bob Perry down the road here on Route 2 will be glad to come up and put in a water treatment situation in their houses if they want it. If they don't want it, well, yeah, they can always come to us and say, hey, put it out for us. Well, I put one in my house, and I didn't come to you people to pay for it. The situation in this country today is very, very bad. It's even possible that we'll go into the second part of another recession. We're not out of the first one yet. Money is difficult to come by. Government is printing money like crazy. Somebody's going to have to pay it back someday. And who's that going to be? It's not going to be me. I'm going to be dead. You people are going to be dead. How about those kids that are coming up, though? They're not going to live the life that we lived. After World War II, prior to World War II, we were in a depression. World War II brought us out of that depression. And we've been continuing out of the depression ever since. And it was lousy finance on big banks and so forth, which put us into this recession. And if you people want to spend more money and put us further down into debt, I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pleasure.
Next speaker is Frank G., to be followed by Robert Torreson.
Mr. G.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Ashcroft. I certainly appreciate your presentation about our debt situation. I'm going to be very brief in my comments. You've heard a lot of projects tonight and heard people talk in the public comment period of your board meeting about those projects. Each one in itself is probably worthwhile, but I haven't heard anything yet where you have scheduled a public hearing to really look at your complete comprehensive improvement program. And I question whether or not you should take action on any individual project until you fully look at the complete program, hold a necessary public hearing, and let all the projects be considered as a whole, looking at which ones need to be moved forward and which ones may need to be delayed. And that way you can also look at what the debt may be and how you're going to fund each and every one of them. So I would encourage you, before you take any action on any specific projects, that you hold your public hearing on your complete plan before it moves forward. Now, thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. G.
The last signed speaker is Robert Torreson.
Good evening, Mr. Torreson.
How you doing? My name is Robert Torreson. I live in Caroline Pines, Reed Church District, and the only thing I want to show you is that's my water on one day, that's my water on the next. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Torreson. All right.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we'll give them.
Would you get those samples, please?
Mr. Parton, would you take those 2 samples and forward them to Mr. Borshak? Thank you.
All right. If there are any other citizens who'd like to come forward and sign our sign-in sheet, and we'll each more. Well, you can come ahead.
My name's Amanda Dyson. I'm from Dawn. I just recently purchased a home in Caroline Pines back in May. I personally don't have any water problems, but I think it's because of where my house is located. There are also people around me that do have problems. I've seen pictures. I've seen the water personally. Not to say that this will never affect me. It probably will. I think I'm just lucky right now. I think there is a plan to pay the money back. We don't want a handout. We want it for the time being and then pay you back, because there are community members in there that do pay their dues, that do want good water, and it's something that needs to happen. And to finish what my mother, Frederica, was saying about the library in Dawn, it's nice. It's a nice idea, but you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. And I know that the county has already invested $200,000 in that facility, but who on this board can tell me that it's a good idea to invest another $700,000? Your answer, Mr. Rozelle, was that the board had committed to building the library, but with whose money? And maybe the board should take a closer look at who owns the property adjacent to the library. Honestly, gentlemen, I believe that you would be committing political suicide if you vote to borrow one additional dime to do anything in this county until we have the surplus and can afford to, quote Mr. Seeley, the bright and shiny things. The things that we need are utilities to bring these people into the county, to make us a strong county, to get the schools where they need to be. My sister is paying tuition to send my nephew to Hanover County schools because the schools in Caroline are not sufficient for my nephew's education. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Amanda, yes. Okay, please. Just come forward, state your name and your voting district, please.
Hi,
I'm Jacqueline Richardson. Good evening.
Exactly.
I just wanted to clearly state my view on the YMCA.